So I'm going to be preparing the marinade for the fajitas. I'm going to start off by peeling the garlic. And then we're just going to be mincing it all up. And you just want to make sure it's really minced up just so there's not like huge chunks in it. And just so it disperses the flavor through the marinade. I'm going to be adding that to my bowl. And then I'm going to be adding all the dry ingredients to the marinade. So I'm going to start off with some red chili powder, some ground cumin, some black pepper, some salt, some red chili flakes, and our last dry ingredient is some oregano. And then I'm going to be adding some lime juice and some olive oil. And then I'm going to put my skirt steak in here, and then I'm just going to rub it in, and you just want to make sure it's really marinated in there. And you're going to want to leave this marinating overnight just so it like absorbs the marinade flavor. And then that will be it.
Once your skirt steak is marinating for the fajitas, you also want to marinate onion. So we're going to peel this and slice it. And for this, you definitely want slices, not a dice. And again, this, you want to marinate ideally overnight, but at least for a few hours. So to slice it, just kind of follow the curve of the onion. Put this in a stainless bowl or anything non-reactive, definitely no aluminum, but Pyrex or anything like that will work as well. And all we're gonna marinate it in is lime juice. So I got a couple limes. And this just mellows the onions a little, makes them a little less acidic, and gives it a nice tangy flavor for the final dish. So once you get your lemon juice, or I'm sorry, your lime juice in there, make sure they're all coated really well. And that'll go in the refrigerator overnight. And then when you're ready to cook this, you'll want to cut up your bell peppers. You don't want to do this the day before. You want to do it right before you're ready to use them. And just the way I like to cut them is cutting the tops and bottoms off so you can use them as well. Cut out the center. It also makes everything nice and flat and easy to cut. And using multiple colors just makes the dish look pretty. You don't have to use all four. You can use whatever colors you like. But like I said, by cutting the tops and bottoms off, you can use these as well. And just kind of, you know, 1/8 to 1/4 inch sticks. It doesn't have to be perfect, because it's all gonna go into a tortilla anyway. And they are ready to start cooking. Okay, so once our meat is marinated overnight, you wanna put it on a hot grill. And skirt steak is the traditional cut for fajitas. Back in the expansion of the Old West, cowboys used to be paid with not only money, but some of the cheaper cuts of meat and hides and things like that. And skirt steak was one of them. And this dish originates in Texas, but it was created by Mexican cowboys. And it's just one of the ways they used up some of those cuts of meat that they were given as part of their payment. It did not show up in restaurants until the 1930s, but it's been kind of a staple of Southwestern Tex-Mex type restaurants ever since. And flank steak does usually take a while to cook compared to other steaks. Things like sirloins, New Yorks, all of those, the grain of the meat is running up and down, so the heat transfers very easily. Flank steak, the grain of the meat is running horizontally, so it takes a little bit longer to cook one of these than it would a similar thickness of other cuts of steak. And if you'll notice, I put the meat down at a diagonal. This is the way to start off to get a nice set of grill marks on any cut of meat. And I'll just show you the way I prefer to grill. So once you've got a good set of marks on the first side, you want to flip it, but keep it at that same angle. And if you'll notice, the grill marks are now perpendicular to the grill. If you have a whole lot of cuts of meat on a grill at the same time, that lets you know that that's the first flip. And by cooking it on side A, then side B, then back to side A, then back to side B, it keeps the meat from puckering, lets it stay nice and flat, and you just end up with a prettier final product. Okay, so we're about halfway through the cooking process. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but we've got a little bit of juice that's starting to come up from the bottom. So we're gonna do our second turn. And I've had the meat kind of pointing at 10 o'clock for the first two, you know, for the first cooking on each side. So for the next flip, I'm gonna aim the meat at 2 o'clock. So 10 o'clock, then 2 o'clock. And you can see this time the grill marks are perpendicular, or I'm sorry, parallel to the grill. So again, if you had a lot of meat cooking at the same time, this would tell me that it's on its third side to cook. And again, we went from side A to side B. Now we're back to side A. By switching sides like that, it keeps the meat nice and flat, keeps it from puckering, and just makes for a nicer looking cut of meat. And we eat with our eyes, so that is important. And for the final flip, I'm gonna leave it at 2 o'clock. And on this side, it's a little hard to see, but it's given me a nice set of hash marks. And another bonus of doing the meat this way, it's gonna have a really nice set of hash marks on both sides. So you can pick whichever side is prettier and serve that side up, so your customers get the best effect possible. Okay, I think we're about ready to pull this off. Ideally, if you can let meat rest for a little while before you cut it. Right now, the outside of the meat is really hot, but the inside is cooler. and the hot meat is actually squeezing. So if you cut it right away, it will literally squeeze some of the juice out of itself. If you let it rest for 10 minutes or so and just let the temperatures even out, the final product will remain a lot more juicy. You won't lose nearly as much of the juice of the meat when you cut it. You know, this side got a little dark, but this side has a nicer cross hatching. So by using that cooking method, I'm gonna use this side up, and we'll let it rest for just a little while before we cut it.
So I'm gonna turn on my pan and put it to high heat, and I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil, and then you wanna make sure and let it simmer before you add your vegetables. So I'm gonna be adding my onions first. So once you see it simmering, we're almost there. So we could almost add our onions. So I think we're good. So I'm just gonna add my onions. Toss it a little bit. And then I'm gonna be adding the bell peppers, but you wanna make sure your onions are a little brown before then. So we're about there. You see your onions are a little more brown. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the bell peppers then. And just a little more oil. And then mix it all up. I think these are just about ready, and we're ready to serve them with our filet steak. I'm just gonna...
Okay, so our meat is rested, our vegetables are cooked. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. In the recipes provided, I've given you some options for chicken breasts, chicken thighs, but as I said, the skirt steak is the traditional cut of meat for fajitas. But if you'll notice, the grain is running this way in the meat. We want to cut against the grain. If you cut with the grain, the final product will be a lot tougher. If you cut against the grain, it'll be a lot more tender. And not only that, you know, we serve the fajitas wrapped in a flour tortilla. If you cut it with the grain, you're gonna take a bite and half of your fajita filling is gonna come out in that first bite. So to cut it down into manageable sizes, I'm just gonna cut a couple short sections. But then each one of these sections, I'm gonna cut against the grain. And we'll just pick it up and serve it on top of the veggies. And this will be very much an assemble your own type of dish. Some condiments that are commonly served with it are either crema or sour cream, avocado slices or guacamole, pico de gallo, salsa, cheeses, whatever cheeses you like. It could be Cheddar and Monterrey Jack, or it could be Cotija and Asadero. Extra limes for lime juice, chopped cilantro. All of those are very common condiments for this dish. So whatever you like, whatever your favorites are. And there you have fajitas ready to go. Traditionally served in flour tortillas. Great dish to serve anytime you're having guests over.